Hi again, it's Carol from Crinkled Path with another episode of Junk Journal with Me Memory Keeping in my altered book. And today I'm going to be talking about a very special time that my family had each week, which was the night before and then the morning of going to church. And so I wanted to share some of my memories around that, and I pulled some pages from a Bible story book. I actually got a set of Bible story books that the covers are completely destroyed, and so I'm pulling pages out of them as I find use for them. And then I have some music paper, some felts, and some other things, including this newer piece of paper from the Gratitude Documented Illustrated Faith Thanksgiving kit from a couple years ago. And so I'm going to use these for a double page spread today in my altar book. So let's get going. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this page down, but I want to get an idea of where I want other things to go before I get too far along in this. I think that I won't lose too much of the image if I cut this down to fit the page, and then I want to cut this as well. Then I have this music paper, and it's Jacob's Ladder, which is a song I remember riding to church and singing. And growing up, I had my two siblings that were quite a bit older than me, and so we would ride to church in our station wagon and they would be in the back seat. And I remember my mom wearing a coat with a rabbit fur collar, and I actually still have that collar somewhere in some memory trunks, and I would pet the collar. And I mean, I was a very little child, but I just remember the song being sung and kind of leaning against her shoulder and petting her, the collar of her coat, while we sang Jacob's Ladder. And music was always a big part of the night before we went to church. We wouldn't have the TV on. We would just have records playing, and we would be singing along. And I love to lay in front of the record player and sing. So I think this is kind of looking like it's going to work. This page I want in its entirety put somewhere in the middle, because this is a game my dad used to play with me the night before church when it was just quiet in the house and we didn't have the normal hubbub of the week. We would do special things for just to kind of come together as a family. And so I'm going to start sticking some of this down, and I might need to find something to go behind them. And then, oh, the little nightgown I'm going to put on, because on the night before church, I would get a bath early and get in my pajamas, and that way I could just have the evening to relax, and all the fuss was done, and we could sing songs and play games and things like that. So 6 inches. Let's trim this down. Oh, helps if my paper trimmer is not upside down. So did you have any special activities that you did around church, either the night before or the day of? Did you have things you remember that you loved about going to church with your family? I was not a huge fan of leaving my parents to go into the classes at church, but I always enjoyed them once I got brave enough to get in there. Okay, put that piece there, and get this one trimmed down a little bit. How much do I need off of this one? I suppose it's going to be the 6 inches again, so let's just go with that. I think I'm going to take some off both sides. Sorry, little bird, I have to cut you in half. Okay, let's see now how long. Just mark this one. My desk is a little too crowded for my giant paper trimmer. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on this page. I just looked up and noticed that my Fabri-Tac has somehow escaped the jar, so I don't think I'm gonna be using that today. Art glitter glue it is. Growing up, I loved the illustrations in the Bible story books. And, you know, we were just very lucky to have a nice set that we used a lot. And they got passed down to my kids, and I used them when I taught in the classes at church when my kids were little. Thankfully, this is not my original set, but I just happened to find that very damaged set when I was going through at a thrift store, and so I was able to grab them up for very cheap. I need to figure out what I'm doing here. I thought I had more of the printed wallpaper that I had printed out, but I have this paper that I've used just a little bit of before in the book, and so I think I'm going to go ahead and just use some of that because the colors are somewhat complementary to what we have going on here. And I just want something to cover up the salad recipe. So that didn't go well. Tuck that one behind. So I think it's pretty safe to glue from the bottom up with this one. Set that aside for a minute. I just really appreciate now that my parents took the time to make that time of the week a very special thing and have some certain traditions around that night before church and the day of church. And I just think of it as being a very peaceful time. There just wasn't the noises of the week. So I have these little felt children praying. Felt stories were a big part of the way we told Bible stories. So we had these beautiful books, and then our church would have these felt figures, both in the Bible stories, and then I think pretty much the 1950s might have been when these were first introduced. And so the felts were very mid-century modern. If you looked at their furniture in their house and things, it was very much that way. I also have this little nightgown to remember that, you know, it was an early night to get ready so that you could have plenty of time to just rest and listen to stories and play the thimble game. And so that was one of my dad's favorites to do with me, was he would hide a thimble somewhere, had to be somewhere you could see it with your naked eye, is what he would say. And I always you know, associated the word naked with something else. But he meant, you know, you shouldn't have to move anything in order to see it. Do I want to cover those? I kind of want some of those words to show, the chorus word, I mean the verse words. So maybe I'll do this. Bring them up just a little bit. Yeah, I like that better. Yeah, so he would hide the thimble and while I was out of the room, and then I'd come in and have to look for it. And of course, if I was getting closer, I was hotter, and if I was moving away, I was getting warm, and if I was way far away, I was cold. That type of a game. And then if I found it, then I could hide it for him. And so that was, I have a fond memory of him playing that game with me. And this little book page is just all about that. Is about them playing this game. It's this page, and that page. This is the one that goes with a different story. So maybe I'll put, I'm not sure exactly how I should do this. I could put this on a envelope flip from the back, because I skipped a page again because I wanted this to be a double page spread. So let me see if I can find an envelope to put this on. I found this envelope, which looks very normal from this side, but then when you turn it over, this side is completely aged everywhere except for where the glue was. Isn't that unusual? Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and glue this onto there, and then I'll put that on that back page, and then I can do whatever I'm gonna do over it later. I like the versatility of the altered book because I don't have to go in order, and since the memories aren't in order, it's really flexible. And I just had so much kind of all around the same topic here that I thought let's see what's the best way to do this. I thought I'd just go ahead and do a double spread. I got to think. We want it flush on this edge. Okay, now I'm going to glue here and put it on the back of the page. I could have also, had I, you know, come up with this idea first, I could have put it under the large picture that I glued on this side, but this will work too. Most likely I'll be putting something on this page that will cover up the flap. You want to give just a skosh of space so that it folds over nicely without pulling, and then it gives you all 3 pages of this story. I think I'm going to get some washi tape right now and reinforce this. I have this floral tape that's got some nice matching colors in it for what we've got going on in this page. I bought all this washi tape when I was Bible journaling, which I started doing several years ago. I guess, let's see, it would be, I think I started Bible journaling in 2015 and moved to junk journaling from there. And I still do Bible journaling too, but I have really expanded. But I've used the washi tape a lot more since doing junk journaling now, which, you know, if you've been a washi hoarder, you know it feels good to find a use before it goes bad on you, because it does kind of start sticking to itself or quits sticking at all. One of the two. So trying to use it up, and oftentimes with the junk journaling, I will put a little glue under it just to make sure it's going to last longer. Okay. So that's there, flips up. I don't think you can see it where now the envelope is here. So now I can actually put something else on this if I want to. So I might think about doing something there, or a journaling card and maybe something else. So let's see, have I shared stories about everything on this page so far? I think so. The felts, the songs in the car on the way. Music was, like, my family was not particularly musical. I mean, I guess we got music lessons. My siblings and I took music lessons. I took piano lessons and flute lessons and things through the school I was at, and was always part of children's choirs and choirs at school and choirs at church, Christmas programs and Easter programs and all those good things. But I don't think either of my parents ever took music lessons. I know my dad sang in a quartet in high school, and they both could kind of play around on the piano a little bit, but it was all by ear, they didn't read music or anything. But they loved to listen to music. And I remember when I was little, these special nights before church when they would put records on. And of course they were listening to stuff they liked, and it was a lot of hymns in 4-part harmony. And I think I started singing in harmony before I was even in kindergarten, because I would lay for hours in front of that record player and listen to people singing in those parts, and just, I think it really helped to give me an ear for it. And both my daughters have that gift too, where they can pick out a harmony part very easily. But we listened to a lot of music too when they were growing up. I have this 1940s wallpaper trims border, and I think I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of that on here. If you saw my folio flip through that I made out of envelopes, it was a birthday gift. I used this in there. I like the way the colors match here, and I can make a belly band out of it. And then I'll have room to put like 2 journaling things here, one in the pocket and one behind this. I just love these old wallpapers where each little color looked like a separate stamp. I mean, I'm just sure that's how they made it, but it's fascinating to me to think, oh, well, you know, first you laid down all the light green, and then you stamped over it the next color green, and then the dark green came last, and white went down, and then yellow, and then light pink, and then dark pink. It just fascinates my brain to think of having to, you know, process that out in the right order so that it would have the dynamics and the depth to the colors. Pretty innovative. And I guess I cut it the length of the paper rather than the envelope, which is fine. Still a little too long. Maybe I'll glue in here a little bit so that then if I sew it successfully, I won't be sewing through the glue. Okay, wish me luck. I'm gonna go try and see if I can get it under the sewing machine without sewing my book page. Oops. Okay, that took a couple tries, but I'm pretty happy that I did it, and I left all these strings and loops and things attached because I didn't want to try and do it while I was sitting there at the machine because I'm going to cut these little strings off and then put just a tad of our glitter glue on there so that they don't unravel. Again, I don't generally backstitch on the paper because I'm using a very old sewing machine, which was an advantage here. It's my mom inherited my aunt, who was my dad's sister's, old cast iron Kenmore. I mean, I think the thing is like one step beyond the pedal sewing machines. I think it was the first electric, and it was really handy for this because I needed the big table to hold the book. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the whole thing and just kind of smooth it in. It doesn't do different stitch lengths, and I try to do really wide stitches when I'm using my machine in journals, because the wider the stitch, the less likely the paper will tear. You gotta let those dry. So let me try not to stick it to itself. Flip you over. I could use the rest of this piece and journal on the back of that. That would be a nice, simple, easy solution for one of them. Well, I'm sorry to say I lost video again, so I'll do just a final flip through of what I completed, which most of it you saw. What I ended up doing was making a journal card for the pocket out of the same music book page that I used for my journaling card that I had put the bird on in one of the last videos. I included this Step Into the Sunshine song, which I remember from an Evie record that I enjoyed as a kid, and more of the washi tape sewed around it. Realized after I sewed it, because this is sideways and sticks out the pocket, and I wanted to add the lace, that I glued that card on upside down, but that's okay because it doesn't show until you pull it out. And you know, we just embrace the accidents, right? I hope you have some memories that you can share with me around just quiet nights at home, or special traditions you had around nights with your family, or church, or times where you had music together. I'd love to hear your stories because your stories matter. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.